to take this opportunity to introduce you to our guest speakers. First, we have Miss Gaia Kodithuwakku. She's a fitness transformative coach and the owner of Gaia Strong Her, which is the biggest female-driven fitness platform in Sri Lanka. She's also a motivational influencer and a determined individual who's willing to serve the community. So, Miss Gaia, it is our absolute pleasure to warmly welcome you to the third episode of the U.OK. webinar series.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm super excited to share the platform with this awesome lady. Every time we get on a panel discussion together, it's just such a good time. So thank you so much for having me.
It is glad to hear. And our second speaker for the day, Ms. Shanelle De Almeida. She's a licensed clinical psychologist and a group wellness manager at Hemas Holdings PLC. She's also the founder of themindmanager.lk. And we are glad that we got the opportunity to have you with us, Miss, today. And we would like to welcome you to the third episode of the U.OK. webinar series.
Thank you. I love being here as usual. I love being with Gaia. And thanks so much. Love Rotaract in general. So thanks.
All right. So I would like to kickstart today's session by asking the two of you on what motivated you to do what you do right now. So first I would like to ask Ms. Gaia, what drove you to become a fitness instructor and how you came up with an idea on changing people's lives through coaching them to be both physically and mentally fit?
I rolled my eyes because it was such an accident. My career was not planned. There was no strategy. There was nothing like that. I just stumbled upon this. My background is criminology. That's what I did for my bachelor's. I came to Sri Lanka. I was in the media industry for a long 5 years. Did not enjoy that at all, but it gave me insight and experience. And after that, I got into fitness purely because starting the journey, just coming into fitness, just training myself was purely to find an avenue to feel good, because the majority of my experience was just going through chronic suicidal depression for nearly 8 years of my life. And I didn't have any other tool to kind of process, me dankale wage social media, internet through, there weren't enough information and just, tools, just ways to cope and understand what was going on. I'm 34 years old, so this happened some time ago. So so fitness was my just avenue to process all my internalized, unprocessed emotions and trauma. And every time I trained, when I came out of the gym, I felt a little bit better. And every day I felt a little bit better. And I didn't know that through movement, I was really exerting these patterns that I had been holding inside, internalized in my body, in my physiology. And when I came back to Sri Lanka and when I started being in the media industry for that long, several of my direct seniors, my bosses were like, you should quit radio and you should just start fitness, because every time I walk into the studio, I catch you looking at deadlift videos. What are you doing with your life? And I really half-assed my way through radio, because although I loved to speak and express myself, there were so many restrictions. This is what you can say, this is what you can't say. You need to talk about celebrity gossip and really shallow, unimpactful things, which I didn't really enjoy doing. And I half-assed because I needed the money during that time period. And I knew expressing myself brought me joy, but I knew this particular medium didn't bring me exactly what I wanted to experience. And there was this, one particular day that I woke up, I was working for EFM during that time. It was my last job in radio, and they were, as a company, they treated me really well. Opposed to my experiences in other media houses where, there was a lot of sexism and there was a lot of just, the experience was not great. Let me just say that. So when I joined EFM, they were just super nice to me. This one fine day, I woke up, I got into a taxi and I was on my way to do my show. and I felt sick in my stomach. I can't really explain. That day I just realized I can't go on with this because physically I feel sick doing this. And I just didn't show up to work. and then the CEO of the company messaged me and said, did we do anything to like offend you? Because you were great at it. We really enjoyed having you here. Come back. And I was like, genuinely, everyone was so nice to me, but I physically can't do this anymore. And I did this without a backup plan. I didn't have money in the bank. I was living in a space for rent. I didn't even have cash for rent. And I just plunged in and I took that risk. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try this whole fitness thing. And I started personal training because I was obsessed by it. I was completely consumed by it because I knew how it affected me in a positive way. Like my mental state to everything changed. I didn't feel like a victim. I felt strong. I felt confident. And all these things I learned through movement. And then I started personal training. And then obviously, it created results. And then I took another risk, which was quitting personal training and getting into online coaching, which gave me access to coaching all these women from all over the world, not just Sri Lankans. So up to date, I think I've coached close to 4,000, 5,000 women from all over the world. And that has given me, I feel like that has given me, fitness has always been a vehicle for me to serve. But through fitness, when I coach women, it's 90% of the time emotional stuff that comes up, Fitness is just like an excuse. And it has given me the platform to really serve women because I can really relate to most of the stuff that they're going through because I have gone through those things. I've gone through like sexual abuse. I've gone through being broke. I've gone through like doubt and having low self-esteem. So it has been such a gift for me. It has given me access to really like connect with women. And that's what I absolutely love to do. And that is the story.
I mean, such an inspirational story, Miss. I mean, you have been going through challenges and you have overcome them and turned them into opportunities, which is absolutely great. And I'm inspired as well. And moving on, I would like to ask Miss Shanelle the same question. What drove you to come up with an initiative such as Mind Manager? And you are a psychologist now. And what was your purpose back then when you first became a psychologist? And what is your purpose now?
Well, I mean, that's quite a question, Nishitha. Thanks for that. I think the main reason why I got into creating the Mind Manager is partly because being in the US for 7 years, I kind of had this awakening moment where I felt like I was in a bubble in Sri Lanka, right? Sometimes you grow up in a massive bubble, right? You think your life is the life of the world, and it's not, and it was a true awakening when I went to the States because I felt like I had all the same teenage issues, about, what do I want to be when I grow up? And, are my friends cool? What do I, and all these sort of privileged issues, right? Starting out. And then when I started majoring in psychology, I realized, because in the US, they're very in your face, right? Nothing is subtle like in Sri Lanka, right? In Sri Lanka, everything is like, don't talk about it. But in the States, everyone's like, I have depression. And you're like, okay, right? So everything is in your face. Like it's almost overloaded in your face, right? Whereas in Sri Lanka, it's a lot more, people are a bit more ashamed to say what they're going through. And they're more scared to speak up, right? I think Gaia will probably agree with me on this. You will always come across people that are very scared to fess up to who they are because they don't feel empowered. They don't feel like they are allowed to say what they need to say, right? Because there are so many other things, they need to care about what their parents think. They need to care about what their culture says. They need to care about what their religion says. They need to care about, and our education system doesn't help, right? Because I remember being in school at Ladies College and then going to Asian International for my last year or so. And I was just like, why am I learning this? Right? Are these really helpful things, about, like I remember learning in history about Pandu Kabya and all these things. And I'm thinking, has that really served me in any way? Not really. It's good to know your history, but at the same time, it's far more important how to manage self-esteem, how to treat people nicely, you know, empathy, emotional intelligence. Now, those are skills that we should be teaching children. So I realized, wow, there is a real gap, right, in Sri Lanka when it comes to being able to overtly express and discuss that whole mental health topic. And the thing is, it's not about making it cool, right? It's about making it something normal, right? We have to normalize mental health, just like fitness is so glamorous, right? People get that fitness is, you know, a big deal, right? That's because you can see the superficial results on the outside, right? You can tell when someone's fit, but how do you tell when someone's mentally fit? You know, it's a lot more complicated. So for me, the Mind Manager stemmed from the need to build in what I really care about, which is mental health, right? And at the same time, you know, speaking up and being and empowering people. So two things. And mind management. I mean, we can all get better at managing our minds, right? And I think managing your body is really important too, right? They both go hand in hand. And I know that my friend Gaia will agree with me on this. You can't have physical well-being without mental well-being. And you can't have mental well-being without physical well-being. They both really complement each other. And when you get both of them feeding off each other, that's when you know you're living your best life, right? So that's why I got inspired to do that and create, you know, purpose. Because the great thing about being in the mental health profession is you get paid to make people's lives better, right? And there's nothing more awesome than that. So long story short, that's how I got inspired. I got an awareness. I felt like, wow, if I can really manage my idiosyncrasies, and I have idiosyncrasies, right? You know, how to manage my anxiety, how to manage my anger issues, how to manage my impulsive behavior. I'm a type A personality, by the way. And, you know, type A's are always on edge and we're very high energy, right? So sometimes people are like, oh my God, like that's a lot. Right? So I had to learn the opposite. I had to learn, be a little calmer, take a step back, mindfulness, you know, these are, and you know, fitness, to be honest, has really helped me with that. Because for me, yoga was the bridge between mind and body, right? Where there's a beautiful marriage between the two aspects. And fitness is something, and you will see all the literature from the American Psychological Association and all the boards that put out mental health certified articles, that fitness is actually an antidote for almost every mental health problem known in the literature. So now we're getting psychologists and psychiatrists saying and prescribing fitness as part of the mandate. The APA, the American Psychological Association, released an article recently saying, you know, for depression, if you're really chronic, yes, you can prescribe antidepressants, but something that you really need to consider is fitness and also nutrition. So merging my love for wellness, I love wellness. So wellness is holistic wellness. So that is physical and mental and emotional and spiritual well-being. They all compass different dimensions of the human state, right? So if you are able to function at a high level in each of those areas, you're living your best life. So long answer to a very specific question. Nishitha, thank you.
I mean, now, ladies and gentlemen, you can see now we have the best two people to talk about well-being, your soul element. And as Ms. Shanelle said, we can see that we have physical well-being on this hand, and on the other hand, we have psychological well-being. So all together with all these elements, when all these elements come together, we can make the best out of ourselves. So moving on, I would like to ask Miss Gaia. Well, this is a two-parter. This is a two-parter question. First, I would like to ask, some think that physical fitness means only losing a couple of pounds and fitting into slim fit clothes. So personally, I think that physical fitness means more than that. So we would like to get your ideas and your opinions on this.
I think it's part of the human condition to take something that's broad or take something that is a little bit complex and put a frame on it. Menna mekai. This is what beauty is. This is what fitness is. If you're fit, you're supposed to have a six pack. You're supposed to have this much body fat percentage. I've gone through and I've been fitted into all those frames in my 8 years of being in this industry that I'm sick and tired of it. It's like, for an example, when I was a competitor and I was having a very low fat percentage and when I was constantly lean, the purpose of my life was to maintain a six pack. And I was miserable because once you get into that frame and once you develop that sort of body dysmorphia, you create a nice identity around who you are. So for me, my branding was this fitness personality. So the way I look constantly had an impact on the brand that I created. So someone saying, "Oh my God, she's so fit. Oh my God, she lifts so heavy and she looks she's in perfect shape." I realized later on, especially during lockdown, it gave me time to stop the hustle and really like go within and go into introspection and really ask myself, what are you living for, bro? Like, what is going on with you? I have created this brand and this identity and my entire existence revolved around it. Is this how I wanted to live? So the past 2 years, I really took time out. හිත හදනවට ඇඟ හදනවට වඩා හිත හදන්න මම පොඩ්ඩක් වැඩිපුර I gave more energy into it. Of course, I took care of my body. I trained, I lifted weights, I did yoga, I ate right, all those things. But I stopped giving a shit about the body fat percentage for the first time in 8 years. Because for the past 8 years, every single gram of everything that I ate was scaled. This many grams of protein a day, this many grams of carbs a day, this many grams of fats a day. So I was completely obsessed by this external flesh suit. I was like, bro, this is not how I want to live. So I flipped this switch within the past 2 years, and I started really observing. I really started getting into managing my mind, and one thing that I experienced during these changes, because obviously I don't have the six-pack body anymore. I don't have the very low fat percentage anymore. I was so skinny that I used to be cold all the time. That wasn't healthy, just because I wanted to create this persona. And when I was in that level of fitness, in that level of that look, people were like, "What a and then when I put on weight, I had people messaging me and asking me, "Congratulations, you're expecting, no?" so one thing I realized was that if you're living in a society full of diverse people with very different faculties of wisdom, so when you're living in that density, there will always be people calling you out for something. There will be someone out there who doesn't like you, or there'll be someone out there whose frame you don't fit into. So my frame, my personal frame of fitness is: are you healthy? Are you functioning well? How are your energy levels? Is your mind functioning in a healthy state, or are you majority of the time in a negative state of mind? If that's the case, then you need to look into that. You know what I mean? So and it's kind of the same when it comes to beauty also. For heaven's sake, I almost swore. For heaven's sake, bro, this is something that I hear from all the women that I train. I'm sure with men also. Like men, my partner being a fitness personality and being on social media, being on YouTube, when he puts on, when he's bulked up, so it's like you can't live a life that is authentic to you. So if you want to live a life that is authentic to you, and if you want to live a life of peace and tranquility, you need to develop your own understanding of what you want. So obviously, there are frames out there. What do we compare ourselves to? We compare ourselves to models who've been photoshopped. People who have been on steroids, where their bodies are synthetic විදියට enhance කරපු ඇඟවල් එක අපිව compare කරගන්නේ. So obviously it's natural for us to develop self-esteem issues. But then again, take a step back and go into introspection. මෝඩ විදියට දකින්න ඔක්කොම පිළිගන්න නැතුව think for yourself. Go into introspection, ask questions. Make attend කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? Make attend කරන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක් නම් majority of the people should be walking around shirtless with six packs. But that's not the case, no? So that's my take on whatever the question you asked me. I think I even forgot the question halfway through. Two-part question you said.
Yeah, you answered the first part very nicely. I mean, so with that, I want to know that, as you said, like many instructors gives us these various kinds of advices on how to maintain a diet and all. So most instructors say that to stay healthy, you need to stop consuming carbs. Some say that you need to reduce carbs and consume protein as much as you can. And we see most of the instructors weigh their meals before they eat and keeping their discipline on their diets. So the question that I want to ask is that, is it really practical? Is it practical for people who do 9 to 5 jobs with busy household work? And are there any simpler ways to maintain a diet and keep yourself well disciplined in the process?
So it depends on what your priorities are. If you have time to give your 100% focus into this, because I had the time. I had the time. My 9 to 5 job I got into it. I got into it again because my athletic energy making had the night. I felt good being someone who used to be obese when I lost weight. It gave me confidence. So of course I prioritized it. So if you have time to measure your food and do all of that, it's fine, go for it. But 90% of the people don't have the time to do it. And secondly, do you have to let go of carbs to lose weight? Absolutely not. But if you're doing something like a competition, or if you're going into something serious like that, of course you have to control your quantities, and there's a strategic way to do so. But should you stay away from carbs for long periods of time? Absolutely not. I eat carbs every single day. My partner Johan eats carbs every single day. It's not about menna make ayinkala menna me extreme megatana. Can you sustain it? If you can't sustain it, it's a huge sign that it's not something that's going to work for you in the long run. You may lose a bunch of weight and then rebound also. You can suppress like a part of when you're. That's what happens to us after competitions. After like 4 months of training 8 to 6 hours a day and eating very strict, like puduma strict with your kala competition, we eat everything. And we lose our marbles, we put on weight because the coaches who trained us never prepped us for the mind shift that happens after competing. And that's the same thing that happens with very drastic diets as well. So with my clients, every single woman that I train, they're on carbs, probably until the very end of the program, where for a short period of time I take away the carbs. Again, for a very short period of time. You don't have to. It's about numbers with calories in versus calories out. If you're an active person, the amount of calories you burn should surpass the amount of calories you're consuming in order for you to lose weight. So, oka carbs kala karanna puluwan. These are all myths. Yeah. and my God, we'll be a grumpy group of people if we let go of carbs, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Gaia. And I would now like to take our discussion into a broader view. So this question goes to Ms. Shanelle. In Sri Lanka, as you said earlier, Miss, in Sri Lanka, people tend to hide their emotions and feelings. Most people. Because they think that talking about mental health in public will cause them problems, and it has become a cultural issue in Sri Lanka as well. Even if they try to open up, some people would actually don't care and make jokes on those type of sensitive topics. As we can see on social media, this happens to a lot of celebrities out there, even influencers. When they like something bad happens, when we go through the comment sections, when we look at the posts, discrimination everywhere. So what can actually we do to prevent that, and how can we make people understand regarding this situation?
Well, that's a great question. I think the first step is to do what we're doing today. Talk about it, right? The more we talk about it, the more normal it becomes, right? If everyone were to ask, are you okay? Right? And similarly, if people were to respond to that saying, I actually feel like shit today, right? And people actually say, see, most people will never say, I feel like shit. They will say, yeah, shit, not bad. Yeah, all right. You rarely hear a person say, actually, my God, like I'm really freaking out right now, or like that. They will only go to a very specific kind of person, like say an HR person, right? And they will expect HR to fix it, right? But the problem is HR is very limited, right? In terms of how to deal with emotional problems, right? So that's why HR professionals actually should be trained in certain areas of emotion, if you ask me, or at the very least be connected to mental health professionals. So the point, how do you break stigma, really? How do you break any kind of normalcy? How do you change any pattern? By doing it differently, right? So if previously we don't talk about mental health, now we do, right? If before people are shaming others, then you stand up to those people. You say, actually, it's not okay to make fun of people when they're going through a mental health struggle. You would never make fun of someone who has cancer, right? How many people do you know that would be like, you have cancer? That's hilarious. Get over your cancer, man. Get over your cancer. Have you ever heard people say that? No. Why? Because it's not accepted. So we should refuse to accept those who demean and degrade the importance of mental health, right? I'll put it very, very simply. So the majority of this culture that we're talking about is influenced by very conservative values. There's nothing objectively wrong in being conservative, but you must unpack and realize where those belief systems come from, right? Because I don't think any religion, to my knowledge, or any philosophy, right, for that matter, like Buddhism or Stoicism or any of those philosophies out there, have ever taught to discriminate or make fun of people's suffering, right? Buddha himself said that life is suffering, right? So why are we making it a joke when people are expressing the fact that they're suffering? It makes no sense. It's contradicting the values that we say as a Sanskritiya that we are upholding. In fact, our Sanskritiya is based on those values: compassion, balance, middle path, right? Acceptance, awareness. If you ask me, Buddha was the very first psychologist. He managed the mind, right? He observed the mind. And then he realized, let's stop the cycle of life. Because, you know, once I reach that level, that means I can accept the way things are. So you can't have it one way, right? If you are really going to say you are a cultured person, you better live the values that the culture itself brought into being. I always laugh at people who try to bring in these, you know, oppressive ideologies into culture and say women can't do this, right? Gay people are like this. Because actually, that is from the neo-colonial ideology from Catholicism and what? Anglicanism, which is a foreign Western influence program that was set about all across the world, right? So you're actually perpetuating a thought process of the Suddas, not the actual country's culture, right? So it's very, very reductionist, to put it lightly, to say that, you know, we are actually being, you know, Sri Lankan by doing the exact opposite of the values that we have been integrated into our social norms. So mental health should be the first thing we talk about, right? Because that is the most basic thing. How many people don't have problems? Tell me one person any of you know that has no problem. Even one problem they don't have. Everything's perfect, no? It just makes no sense. How can we make fun of people and judge others when all of us are going through some level of struggle? If you look at the statistics, depression is the #1 disability in the world. It's classified by the World Health Organization as the #1 disability. Very soon it will surpass heart disease and all kinds of chronic non-communicable diseases like cancer, for example, like diabetes. Look at Sri Lanka's suicide rate. That's enough. We'll stop there. We have one of the highest suicide rates. What does that tell you about the fabric of our society? People are suffering. So there's no point in sugarcoating this and saying, let's laugh about it. And you're part of the joke if you're making fun of mental health, because mental health is something very, very serious, just as important as the physical well-being. See, people are, they're very quick to go to the doctor, no, right? Moment, you get a sickness or something, right? They'll go to the doctor and doctor is like God, right? But it's very prescriptive, the solutions. So we have to be very careful about educating our society and normalizing mental health. That is how you start. You make it okay to be not okay. That's what we have to start doing, in my opinion. Because the moment people realize there's actually no issue with being not okay, and most of us are not okay half the time, right? The easier it's going to be to change that ideology around shame and being vulnerable. And that's how I feel about that.
I just love watching you speak, man.
Ditto.
I love it. Did we lose the host by any chance?
No?
I'm here. I had to face a little technical difficulty, but I'm here now.
Okay. We would like to see
Thank
you
you so
also.
much. The electricity has gone, so
That's okay. All right. We shall make do.
yeah, and thank you so much, Ms. Shanelle. And I completely agree with you. And at the end of the day, every life matters, and it is okay to not be okay. And I completely agree with you. And I think as humans, we need to take these type of topics more seriously. So, my next question goes to Miss Gaia. Because of the because of the pandemic, the gyms are closed, and we get to see people are following workout routines at home. And some people say that it is a bit boring to do workouts at home, and they prefer going to the gym and hitting those weights. So, how can we make that experience much more exciting?
Listen, the thing is, you only have control over how you respond to these external happenings. So, for an example, the pandemic can happen. So many things can happen in your external experience that is not so ideal. I personally enjoy training at gym also. But what to do? 2 years into the pandemic, we're still basically just restricted to training at home or whatever. I listened to this sermon a couple of months ago where this monk talks about හිතට අකමැති දේ කරන්න. We have all become slaves of the mind. Mind එක කිව්වොත් මට මේක කවපන්, මට මේක කරපන්, මට මේක ඇඳුම් අරන් දීපන්. Buy these material things for me, only then I'll be happy. Find me this perfect partner, then I'll be only happy. මේ රස්නේ අද රස්නේ වැඩි කියලා මේ වෙදේකට බයිනවා අද comfortable නැහැ කියලා mind එක කියන විදියට අපි මෝඩයෝ වගේ හැසිරෙනවා. So obviously the mind is going to come up with 101 excuses and tell you don't work out today, it's not fun, not like gym, a vibe එක නැහැ. To hell with the mind, man. Do what's right by you. Mama කරන ඒවා ඕගොල්ලෝ කරන්න බැරි වෙයි because I do really weird shit. Like for an example, my partner loves to listen to like high BPM music. Sometimes I listen to Deshana. I listen to like sermons and I train because for me, when my mind is stimulated, like my deepest vidarshanas have come while I'm training and listening to Deshana. I'm like, wow, holy shit, that's amazing. So again, it depends on what makes you feel alive. For some people, it could be the right music. For some people, it could be being out in getting some fresh air. For some people, it could be just literally dragging yourself and just doing that first set of movement. කැමති නෑ දුම ඇඳගත්ත coffee එක බිව්වා කැමති නෑ just show up and do what you got to do. for me, I realized I became very resourceful and innovative after the pandemic happened. Like not just like I make up workouts. Like for an example, if there's a certain workout that I love to do at gym and I don't have the right equipment for it, I would get innovative with what I have around me and I would create a very similar movement using it. And for me, even if I can't train every single day, I don't train every single day, I don't lift weights every single day anymore. Because I'm exploring, I'm exploring my options. So I do yoga, I go for very long walks. Luckily, fortunately, I live in a proper village. So behind my house is this huge kumura. Not a soul to be found in that area. Completely just myself, the dogs, and he joins me sometimes. I go for long walks. I do some yoga. I do whatever that my body needs. Today my body needs to sleep. You know, when your body is trying to be like a horror and like on Netflix, that's your body coming up with excuses. I've learned this really cool thing where I heard a lot of people talk about this thing called amygdala hijack. Basically, this gray matter in the back of your in the back of your brain. It's basically developed over time during evolution to help you detect danger. You detect danger through that, but you don't live in the jungle anymore. So the need for that certain for that part of the brain is very less now. Even when you take up a new habit like training or meditation or whatever it is, that little part of the brain detects it as a threat. I'm going to come up with 100 excuses for you to not do it. So amygdala ask the bugger to get the heck out of your reality and know the patterns of your mind. Know when your mind's slowly sneaking up an excuse and telling you not today, bro, just chill today. Also, you should be able to discern between when you should move and when you should rest. Like I know when my body is really beaten up, I know today I need sleep. Today I need rest. But I also know when my mind is coming up with excuses and telling you today you need rest, when in actuality today I need movement. You see what I mean? What I believe is all of this, including this human reality, all of it is a mad deception of the mind. This body is a projection of the mind. I feel like whatever this physical reality is created through the energy we hold inside. Einstein E equals mc squared. Basically what he said was everything that is dense and physical is made of energy. So ape energy ke avulak tirana ape physical reality ke definitely ek physicalize wala apita pena. So manipulate the mind. Don't let the mind get its way. Don't let the mind control you and make you a slave to it. Override that shit. Reprogram yourself. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Miss Gaia. And the next question goes to Miss Shanelle. And this is a similar type of question to the previous question that I asked from Miss Gaia. Now we are obviously asked to stay indoors and we are stuck at homes. The pandemic has been going on for nearly 2 years now. And as undergraduates, we had to spend most of our university lives stuck at homes. The situation clearly stresses us out. So what advices can you give to manage stress and to keep physical and mental health in check?
Before you start, I want to quickly show you a way that I manage my stress.
Oh yeah, so true. It's so true. I agree with that.
While I'm talking to you, I have to give her a pet. She's like, please scratch my head. Go on.
It's the best, scientifically proven, by the way. Yeah, so stress. So first of all, let me just say, all stress is not bad, okay? We live in a sort of like a pop culture society where we have learned to be afraid of stress. There's actually a stress that is really good for us, which is referred to as eustress. That is EUSTRESS, okay? Eustress. That is the kind of stress that pushes us to meet deadlines, create a goal, Be afraid when somebody is, asking you to keep a secret, then you feel motivated. So you're like, okay, I better not share that secret, So that stress is really, really good. So we need stress. Everything in life, as Gaia said, right? So it's energy, everything is energy. Correct, 100%. So the point is, without the negative energy, the positive cannot exist, because both have to be aligned. So for example, there's this famous saying, without the darkness, there would be no light, right? So it's important to embrace all our mental health hang-ups as more of a learning curve rather than something that we are, as Gaia mentioned, threat. Everything is threat, 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 threat. So run away, run away, run away, or kill it. Those are the two options. Or maybe freeze. There's fight, flight, or freeze in the fear response, right? So the problem is, in our current life, the only real threat is our own head. Because there is no mountain lion, right? There is no rival tribe, usually, hopefully, coming to get to us, right? And take our resources, right? There's no poisonous snake always waiting to attack us when we try to pick some berries, pretty rare, right? Unless you're in the village. I hope you don't go through that area. But, that kind of existential life or death threat is rare. That is why we need to realize that Nishitha, stress can actually be a good thing when managed properly. And the reason why most young people especially are now feeling so threatened, as if life or death is happening, literally it is happening, because COVID-19 is costing lives, unfortunately. But another kind of death is the socialization death, right? Where you can't meet the people that you usually hang out with face to face. You can't go somewhere and take an Instagram photo. You have to now do everything that you can do at home, right? And that means your freedom has been taken. And that is very difficult, especially when you're used to having freedom, right? So this feels like a life or death situation, being at home. And to make matters worse, and they've done tons of cognitive tests and research studies on this, human beings need structure and routine, okay? If we do not have structure and routine, yes, freedom and flexibility is wonderful, but when you don't have some level of direction, Nishitha, you go nuts, right? Why? Because 65,000 on average thoughts the human mind creates. 65,000. You're lucky if it stops at 65K, right? That's the average, what they have done with MRI scans, right? Neural pathways always firing in the prefrontal cortex. So what do we do about that? This is why we need to activate certain stress relief responses. Now, the reason why we talk about breathing, I know it sounds very reductionist to talk about breathing, but we need to understand is, and I'd like to go back to the fear response that Gaia mentioned earlier. See, why did we feel as if there was an existential threat when a mountain lion was coming towards you? It's so that all the energy, your body, so your blood pressure increases. Cortisol, which is the hormone that increases your fight or flight response, gets activated, right? Now, when cortisol and adrenaline, which is the other hormone that pumps a lot of blood when you're trying to attack something and run away from it, is the same thing that is being activated when you are feeling like, oh my God, I'm trapped. I have nothing to do. I don't know how to manage my work. I don't know, schoolwork is so boring and lame. I don't want to do this, right? All these things start firing. Then you become fight or flight stress response, right? Now, when this happens, the first thing that gets turned off is what? Your breathing. Have you noticed when you're panicked and when you're anxious, what happens? Hatidana, right? Why does that happen? Because now the oxygen levels have been disrupted and your entire energy level in your whole body is going to Attack the mountain lion. Now kill it, or run. Save yourself. Now the point is, there ain't no mountain lion now in your house. There's just Netflix, right? And if you're lucky, you read books. It's a great thing. I recommend it. If you can read, please read, everybody. Great for mental health. So what happens is, that's why we need to bring back the oxygen fluctuation, right? An increase in oxygen. So then when you breathe and you control your breathing, the oxygen levels increase in your brain. And that, we also refer to this as the vagus nerve. If you all want, you can research that. That is the nerve that basically creates balance in the mind, right? Where the breathing all gets activated and it stops the fear, the fear response, right? So that's why when you take inhalation and exhalation practice, and if you do it correctly, and if you're an athlete, you know this, if you're a fitness person, you know this, you cannot work out properly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gaia, unless your breathing is good, right? You can't lift weights, you can't run an extra mile, you can't, if your breathing is disrupted and it's not powerful enough, because your lungs have to expand. What is the best thing to basically create immunity for corona? They're finding more and more evidence to suggest that people who are fit and have immunity systems have a much less likelihood of getting the disease and dying, right? So if you strengthen your lungs by proper breathing practices, not only are you saving your physical health, but you're also saving your mental health, and your stress levels are obviously going to go down. So number one, no matter what kind of mental health state you are in, practice proper breathing exercises, no matter how young you are, right? Because it's going to help. It always does. I have chronic anxiety people coming to me, right? Who, you know, and they've had tons of childhood trauma, all kinds of, you know, body dysmorphic issues, domestic violence. A lot of this stuff is so much more easier to process when you are breathing better and consciously. Believe it or not, it's true. So start with that. Second aspect is the structure part, which I need to come back to. You all need to create some structure towards your day, routine. You've got to create a routine. It doesn't mean you have to stick to the routine every single day of the rest of your life. You can get creative, you know, nothing is fixed. You can be growth oriented. You can change the fact that you don't know how to make a cup of coffee, right? I mean, so many of us spoiled Sri Lankan kids, right? From day one, never made our own bloody tea or coffee. Learn to do that. If you can't, right? It's great. This is one thing that I learned when I went to the US. I'm like, oh shit, I need to do all this. Okay. Right? It's great. Learning curve. Start learning something, right? Create some structure and discipline in your life that you need that. You have to create boundaries, because the problem is when you let anything run around too freely also, then chaos, correct? That's why we have law. Doesn't always work, but you know, we can hope that it gives some level of discipline to our society. So what you need to focus on is to create a structure that it works for you. No, again, no one size fits all. Okay, everybody is different, right? Some people will do yoga, some people will do dancing, others will headbang. That's fine, right? It doesn't matter. Okay, whatever floats your boat, as long as you're moving. Your body needs to move, right? So you've got to put in a little bit of that fitness into your routine. And I think the younger you are and the faster you get on that fitness bandwagon, the better, right? And the faster you get on the mind management bandwagon, the better, right? Start doing that. So you practice your breathing, you create some structure, you add some fitness in there somehow, right? Because, I mean, there's an amazing app called the Johnson & Johnson 7-minute app. If any of you, you know, have some space on your phones, try and download it. Because the best part is it creates a fitness routine. You might be interested in this. And it's a 7-minute intense workout. high intensity workout for 7 minutes. So for any, it's designed for people on the go. So wherever you are going, if you're going to the corporate, if you're working in the corporate sector, if you're, you know, in high school and you're really stressed and you feel like you can't get in your 9 subjects in, you know, and to study for it, try the 7-minute app, right? It only takes 7 minutes to move your body effectively if you do it right. Okay, so no excuses, right? Last but not least, I will please suggest to try and journal as much as you can, because journaling is very powerful. I can tell you, I do it every day, right? And this is basically getting your thoughts on paper, because now, remember, approximately 65,000 thoughts, right? So when you write it down, it's a lot less likely you can BS your way, because what is down in paper is far more reality-based, it's tangible. So start writing down your thoughts, keep a reference point, because the sad thing about negative thinking is once you start thinking negatively and you think, I am stressed, I'm a stressed person. Now that's your identity, I am stressed. Therefore, you will do what we call in social psychology, the self-fulfilling prophecy. That is, if I think I am that, then I am going to behave like that. Therefore, I become that, right? Human mind, very powerful. So we need to change that cycle. So don't start internalizing your stress too much. Try and, you know, create habits out of it. Externalize it a little bit by journaling, working out, breathing. Very simple. And might I please add, work on your nutrition. I can't tell you how important nutrition is. So besides the movement aspect for mental health, eating healthy, again, they've published articles in the American Psychological Association magazine, where they've said nutrition is also affecting the amount of serotonin levels in your brain. It also causes anxiety. It also causes depression when you eat junk food and crappy processed food. So just remember that. Because the sad thing is, when people are bored, sometimes, very often, they go and eat crap to feel better, right? So keep that in mind. That's it for me, Nishitha. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Miss Shanelle. And I would like to ask the audience if they have any opinions on what we have talked so far. And if you have any questions, please just unmute yourself and ask, or just you could direct your questions through the chat. And the next question goes to Miss Gaia. So as you said earlier, we have to put our focus, and we have to put our focus on what we think and how we think. So sometimes when we try to work out, suddenly a motivated angel taps on our shoulders and say, hey, try to hit your personal best today. And then a demotivated angel, just lazy kind of angel, jumps out of nowhere and taps and says, hey, don't get too tired, man. Just have a quick nap. Just relax. So I know that there is no one answer to answer this, but how can we kick out the laziness in our life and get motivated to stay well disciplined all the time?
First of all, adding to what Shanelle said before about how we all go crazy when there is no structure, I notice myself, I wake up usually quite early. I wake up around 3:30, 4 o'clock every day. And if I don't wake up at that time, let's say I wake up at 8 o'clock, I notice how it affects the rest of my day. Like madly, like it's insane. Because usually my day unfolds, I wake up at around 3:30. You may call this traditional, but Budu Pahantela, I chant these gathas because I feel like personally for me, every word that we say, ගාත අයින් කරන්න කියන හැම වචනයකම energy එකක් vibration එකක්, it reverberates at a certain level. So for me, when I go into such a state, I feel like I really lift my frequency up to a point where I'm in a elevated space from the get-go early in the morning, right? And I go into meditation through that. Again, meditation kiwat mama me yanne traditional I don't know there are so many different types of meditation, like what Shanelle said before. Breathing, that also could be a type of meditation. In Buddhism, we say samatha and vidarshana. Samatha kiyala kiyanne certain practices that we do to calm our mental environment so that we can go into a state like vidarshana. And vidarshana we do to break through patterns. Childhood trauma කියයි ඕනම defense mechanisms කියයි එක එක අපේ ඇතුළේ internalize කරපුවා කඩන්න විදර්ශනාවට යන්න mind එක first of all tranquil වෙලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ. Right. So again, this is I'm still speaking about the whole routine aspect. So I start my day in that particular tone. I do my and I become very intentional. I become super intentional when I finish the entire spectrum of things. Mama, I finish with Arya Maitreya. Arya Maitreya meditation is basically you really connect with your heart. And you send out positivity to all the beings in the world. And when I do that, I really connect to my heart. And by the end of that meditation, I'm feeling like there's a bulb inside me and I'm glowing. You know what I mean? So I developed this faculty of compassion. I'm more of a wisdom-based person. So when I see idiots around me, sometimes it's hard for me to be compassionate. Sometimes I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Like, I can be quite stern. But when I'm in a setting where I'm with grandparents and I'm with people who are of different wisdom faculties, I can't be like I can't be mean. You know what I mean? I can't. So for me, in order for mama danna mage adupadu monawada kiyala. You know, I'm a go-getter. Spiritual practice ek gattath ekath go-getter thama. So vidarshana kiwwat every moment, every living breathing moment becomes a vidarshana. But mage missing aspect එක තමයි compassion. So mama udayata first thing after my gathas මම Arya Maitri meditation එක කරනවා. By the end of it, I'm feeling I access such a beautiful state of mind that I can be tolerant towards people. I can be compassionate towards people. So like that, structure your day in a way where, let's say for the entire day from morning till evening, you're on Netflix. Obviously, you've tuned your energy into this sluggish frequency. එතකොට හවසට මොන workout? එතකොට හවසට පොරෝගන් බුදිය ගන්න තියෙන්නේ. So my advice to you is structure your day in a way where you're energized by the end of evening time or whatever. Like for example, mama dannawa mage energy levels adu mona velaweda kiyala. Man ee velawal walata mage workout routine එක මේ structure කරගන්නේ. I know 3 o'clock is my time to work out. So 3 o'clock I'm training, no matter what. You see what I mean? And on this particular day, if I don't feel like training, if my body is not resonating with heavy lifting, then I'm doing some yoga. I'm doing something though. You see what I mean? So just like Shanelle said, structure is so important. I think what we missed during the pandemic is the structure. That's where we all went nuts. But the cool thing is you don't have to have access to the outside world to maintain structure. You can do it from your room. You see, like before I moved into the village, I used to live in Palavatta in Colombo. Can call it Colombo, I guess. And I didn't have access to nature. You know, I lived in a very can close environment එකක මං හිටියේ. ඒතකොට ඒක ඇතුලේ නම් මම පිස්සුව දෙන්න බෑ. No, I can still maintain structure. කියන්නේ චූටි prison cell එකක් ඇතුලේ හිටියත් you can still maintain structure. You know what I mean? So wake up in the morning. For me, so අපේ යෝගවල yogis ලා ඔය Hindu tradition එකේ කියනවනේ from 3 to 5:30 or something brahma muhurta or something කියලා. එතන ඇත්තට මොකක් හරි ඇත්තක් තියෙනවා because when I wake up at that time I'm like I feel superhuman. So I do my gathas, I do my meditation, and then I go into mami podak nerd. So what I go into is I learn a bit of Abhidhamma because that stimulates my mind. So when I right, and so again mama religion එකක් ගැන කතා කරනවා කියලා ඔළුවට දාගන්න එපා. I'm just sharing with you guys my day and how it works out, right? For me, I have never been a Shraddha based person. Vandagana Shraddha based Malpujagala, I have never been that. For me, my Shraddha developed when I went into the study of it. So if you're a Christian person, when you're applying those things into your life and when you see things opening up, you're like, oh my God, I believe in God. Oh my God, I have so much love towards Jesus, right? So just like that, when I went into Abhidhamma and when I started really understanding the science of science, I was like, holy shit, this being walked this earth and his mukhya paramartha was to free beings out of suffering. I was like, wow. So of course mata shraddha ඇති වෙනවා. You see what I mean? So like that, figure out your day. I know gatha කියලා meditate කරලා අපිධර්ම ඉගෙන ගත්තට පස්සේ I'm super charged for the rest of the day. By 8:30 I'm done with my client messages. And from 8:30, 9 o'clock onwards, I'm like, let's work on things that really, like the other stuff that I'm passionate about, creating content. I have my entire day ahead of me. So ඔයාගේ weakness එක අඳුර ගන්න. ඒකට හරියන්න ලස්සනට combat කරන්න. Know how your mind works, your patterns, කොයි වගේ excuses දෙන්නේ, කොයි වගේ වෙලාවද නිින්ද යන්නේ. Like for me, I don't eat heavy meals during daytime, because the second that carbs hit my stomach, I'm completely out of it. So my heavy meals happen towards the evening time, so that I function better during the day. අර කියනෝනේ රැට carbs ගන්න බා කියලා අමූලික බොරු. You can have your rice in the night. Again, side note. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gaia. And since I mean, this discussion is really interesting, so I really want to get both of your ideas on this question. Since we are facing this situation in day-to-day basis, so how can we keep our state of mind at peace during the pandemic? Because whenever we turn on the TV nowadays, whenever we turn on the TV, radio, or just look at our phones, we get to see news on the COVID patients count, the death rates, and so many depressing facts like that. So what do we have to do? Do we have to avoid that, or do we have to face those kind of situations and overcome those? So in general, how can we have a good state of mind during the pandemic? Miss Gaia and Miss Shanelle, both of you can add on.
Okay, so this is something that I think everyone should definitely realize. If you haven't read the book, please do. His name is Mark Manson. I'm sure most of you would have heard. Yeah, Gaia has, obviously. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a you know what. Right? Am I allowed to swear on this? Probably not. Yeah, so I'm not going to say it. But someone doesn't watch news. Good for you. Good for you that you don't watch news. I think the premise of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a you know what, the premise of it is be selective, right? I think we should all be very selective. It's all about, again, I will reiterate, 65,000 thoughts per day per person. So let's be very selective about what I like to refer to as mind food, right? Manasika poshana, right? That I think we should all have, because see, you should not poison your body with toxic food. We all agree now. A lot of people still continue to do it, but we agree that a bad diet is bad for you. Correct? No? Right? It's the exact same thing for the human mind. Exact same principle applies. So if all you're doing is consuming a death here, a suicide there, murder there, drug addicts here, I mean, the world looks really, really shitty, right? Okay, and I know this because I have people telling me, oh my God, doctor, I'm so scared. I'm so panicky because I have to listen to all this negative shit, right? And I'm like, I understand. And you know, their panic attacks happen because of the news half the time, right? It gets triggered, obviously, because here you're trying to save and create a safe space for yourself, but the entire external world looks like it's on some kind of steroid, right? So be selective in the information that you choose to receive. I always tell my, clients and, people that I meet, please, for the love of all that is good, go on a social media detox at least once in your life and see the benefits. I'm not going to sit here and say, social media is so bad, social media is... No. That's not... Everything in life can be bad. Everything in life can be good. Okay? I'm someone who drinks wine quite a bit. Okay? 1 glass per night. Okay? No one can judge me. I don't care who judges me, because for me, that is, gives me a bit of takes the edge off. And I know I'm not going to overdo it. Right? So it's the pleasure principle. We all live for a very short time, to be honest, no matter how fit and healthy we are, right? So you need to enjoy your life. right? So know what that means. So be selective, even with the information that you choose to absorb. Create push notifications only for the things that you really want to hear. To be honest, I only have a couple of news sources. I have just Adaderana, just to keep, track of, the alerts so that I know, oh my God, this is happening. Then okay, that is it. But I never watch news. I don't watch news. I don't like the news, right? And if you lived in the US for a long time, you will notice that the American system for media is highly politicized, right? It's very political. You get the liberals and the Democrats talking very extreme things, and you get the conservatives and the Republicans talking their own version of things. And it's very too much noise, and everyone's attacking each other. It's very toxic. So please be selective in the information that you are going to absorb. Read a book for once, something interesting, something, don't watch news. Trust me, if it's important, you will hear about it. Okay, if it's that significant, right, you don't have to be on social media 24/7 and looking at that blue light. If the world is ending, you will know. You don't need 50 different news channels or 50 different social media outlets to know about what's happening in the world. You really don't. So choose, delete the apps you don't use, filter, be a minimalist to a certain extent. Take out, clean out your closet. Make sure that you are not having to deal with crap that you don't actually need. Filter. And I recommend reading the book as a start, Mark Manson's book. So if you haven't already.
Just to add to that, I think Shanelle gave a perfect explanation over there. I personally don't watch the news because I have grandparents who watch the news 5 times a day. So I know for a fact. Now, for an example, I think with age also, they're in the 80s, there's a bit of a decline in their hearing also. So sometimes news happens really loud, right? But I live in a colonial house, like a 250-year-old colonial house. The house is big, so I don't hear much of the information, but I hear the music. So I know it started. And there have been multiple occasions where I go and tell my grandmother, but you don't have to watch it 5 times a day. You don't have to watch it in every news break. You can watch it in the night, maybe, So what I do is, what I basically do is I don't watch the news. I know if it's something important, just like Shanelle said, you will get the information. Main information definitely your family member will come and tell you. Because for me, my peace of mind is super important. Because what I see is, you have a conversation with anyone these days, they're completely consumed by this. Completely consumed by this. Either it's going to be a political conversation about, oh my God, the country is going to shits. True, the country is going to shits. But do you want to be consumed by it? It's good to know about what is going on to an extent. But if you get consumed by it, consumed by the negativity, then it's affecting your peace. And I'm noticing either the fear of COVID. Of course, you have to be cautious and you need to make sure that you're doing the right thing, protecting your family. But prioritize your mental well-being, because if you're going to be a mess over here, your body, your immunity is going to go to shits anyways. the chances of you attracting that particular experience into your life is going to be much more than a person who is in a calm, grounded state of mind, objective, full chill එකේ full mind එක calm තැනක ඉන්න කෙනෙක්ට ඒ වගේ situation එකක් attract වෙන possibility එකක් අඩුයි. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much, Miss Shanelle and Miss Gaia. And to add to that, I mean, I completely agree with both of you. I mean, I had some troubles in the past. So what I did was I logged out of from my social media accounts, and I took some time off to figure out what is happening, to figure out what is going on with my life, and what should I do to overcome my troubles, and how should I face them. And during that time, I also had my examinations. So in my mind, I was like, oh my God, I have examinations. Will I be able to do this with all these troubles in my head? So what I did was I took some time off. I figured out what I was doing, and then I faced the examinations and I did well. So I completely agree with both of you, and thank you so much for
I
those wonderful answers.
actually wanna add one small thing. Then api TikTok gata,
Yeah, sure,
Instagram gata, then you see
sure.
99% of time, if you just observe yourself, දවසට මිනිත්තු කීයක් වා scroll කරනවද TikTok එකේ නැත්නම් Instagram එකේ? ඕක අනිවාර්යෙන් වෙන දෙයක් නේ. I have caught myself a million times, but I have come to a point right now, even if I post something, Mama YouTube, I mean, I took almost a year away from YouTube, and probably like 2 months ago, I did my first video after a year. And I did another video just a couple of weeks ago, and massive amounts of comments. Do I read it? Occasionally. Okay, I don't get consumed by the response I get even for my own posts and even for my own content, because I know how destructive it can be. You can be consumed by it, and consume if you're identified with what you're creating on social media, or just being a viewer of social media, the second there's a negative comment, the second there is some hate, you're going to be shattered inside. So even social media gave me really deep insights. Mata marama deep vidarshana insights ava by really watching social media and seeing what an illusion this is. Oyata positive comments ava, that's absolute illusion. Negative comments ava illusion. Mokada make a temporary there kiyanne. The second someone decides to dislike you because of one thing, eva okkom kale. ඔයා කරපු හොඳ, ඔයා create කරපු good vibes ඔක්කොම කැලේ. So my understanding of social media, I remember a couple of months ago, I got publicly attacked by this certain person, videos full on, and I told one of my friends, bro, I don't care. It's fine. These people can create whatever content. I'm not going to check it. It's fine. Let them do it. And then my friend told me, do you not care, or are you telling yourself that you don't care because you don't want to face it? I said, you know what? I'm actually going to face it. You know what? I'm going to look at these videos. Then my videos, and then I even went through the comment section. Now within the comment section were people who I knew, who I've even hung out with, who have kind of gotten into the bandwagon of hating or just saying negative things. And I'm like, and I saw myself shake. I saw myself getting affected and triggered by this. And I asked myself, what are you triggered by? I'm triggered by the fact that they are attacking me. Okay, so who am I? මේ මම කියන්නේ කවුද? කවුද මේ මම කියලා මම හදාගෙන ඉන්න ඩෙන්ටිටි එක, මේ පුද්ගලයා කවුද? මේ ගාය කොඩිතුවක්කු කියලා හදාගෙන තියෙන බ්‍රෑන්ඩ් එක, මේ ඉමේජ් එක කවුද මේ? So these may be a little bit deep, but through Vidarshana I tapped into some really deep insights that completely detached me from public perception. From that point onwards, when I understood this one particular thing about how the world works in regards to the relationships we have with people, regards to the perception people create around us. මට එදායින් පස්සේ මම post කරනවා because I'm inspired. එතනින් යාට මට හොඳ කිව්වත් නරක කිව්වත් I'm appreciative of the හොඳ. But even that මම එතනින් යාට ගන්නෙ නැහැ. So you need to create those boundaries and make sure that you do what's right for your well-being. ඔයාට මේක බලලා මෙතන පිස්සෙක් වෙනවා මේ practice එක ඔයාට වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ. Let go of the practice.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gaia. And I think someone has raised hand. I think it's Vibhuda Ranasinghe. If you have a question, please feel free to ask.
Actually, it's not a question. I just wanted to say that my case, I never watch news at all, because every time you watch news, it's something negative you know. Simply. That's why. That's what I just want to share. Plus, yeah, just want to share that. Yeah.
Yeah, true. And thank you for sharing your thoughts, Vibhuda. And as we have come to the latter part of our wonderful discussion, I have another open question. Well, this is a question that I have for myself. We play different roles in different stages of our lives, and we move on from each stage. We face challenges which causes problems to our mental well-being. For an example, we are moving from being an undergraduate to the corporate world as an employee, and so on. So are there any key factors that we need to take note of, and how can we prepare ourselves mentally to face those kind of problems and to prepare ourselves to move on from stage to stage in our life?
So I would start off by saying, number one thing to be successful in any way in your life, and by the way, there are many definitions of success. Try and figure out which one works for you. Okay? Being successful doesn't have one way of being, right? There's no one frame of success. There are people who are CEOs, influencers, all these nice things. Their relationships are shit, right? Every money, they're buying a bag, they're driving a car. Parents, right? What's the point? What's the point? Right? Again, all these material things that we get, I'm not going to say that material things are bad. I'm someone who enjoys material things every day. Okay? I am not going to shoot those things down. But that's not going to define your success. Trust me. Right? A very great president that I really admire of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. That's my dog. Please don't pay attention. She's really fast. Right? He said, what really matters about a man or a woman is the content of her character, right? His or her character. It is not the external aspect of who they are, right? So you have to be very careful about what your content is within yourself. If you yourself knows that you are not being true and not authentically true to yourself, it's going to be very problematic. Trust me. So you're going to live your whole life trying to get external validation, right? Whether it's followers, whether it's fans, whether it's clients, whether it's lovers, haters, whatever it is, you're going to be wanting external validation, right? And as Gaia said, you have to be able to expose yourself to these threats, right? That is when you know, if I am okay with taking the criticism and it becomes almost okay, right? Then you know you've built strength against things. Now to do that, you need to be self-aware. Then what we know. You need to have that intellect about who you are as a person. I'll tell you one thing that really cracks me up. I will ask a bunch of questions in all these sessions and panels and talks I give, and then I usually always ask, who are you? Just tell me who you are. Just define yourself, not the name. Name we all know what the name is. I want to know who are you? Who are you? You'll be surprised how many people can't answer that question. When you ask yourself, who am I? Can you, any of you say for sure that you can answer that? Now, the people who can answer are the ones who had that self-work. Now, this how to know, how to get to know who you are. Do we teach that? No. We teach about all these random mathematical algorithms. Some of them are important, others are not. Most are not, I would say, right? But we never teach people to get to know themselves. The most important person in your life is yourself. I promise you that. That's the most important. Because if you do not know how you operate, what do you like? What do you care about? What matters to you? Is family important? Do you want to actually get married, or are you trying to get married because society is telling you marriage is important? I mean, God, I can't tell you how many times I had to deal with people who have married the wrong person, not through love, but because of societal expectation. Right? Now, this is the problem when you try, the needs of the society trump the needs of the individual. That's very problematic, because then you have a bunch of individuals who are really insecure and unhappy, right? And then those are the people that are out there becoming your CEOs, your entrepreneurs, your counselors, your therapists, your every. This is a bad place to be. The ecosystem is insecure. Just because you have a title and some power and some money in the bank doesn't mean you got it going on. The real people know that what is true power is knowing yourself. And when you know who that person is, when that time comes, and it comes for all of us, right? Death, right? Death is the best teacher, right? Because death tells you no matter who you are, right? I'm coming for you. And none of us get out of jail free card for that. Right? No matter how physically fit or mentally fit we are, we're still gonna die, right? That's very much the reason as to why we should know ourselves better. So get to know yourself is what I would say. If you want to go into the corporate world or any kind of success in any part of your life, whether it's relationships, whether it's physical health, whether it's mental health, whether it's whatever it may be, please remember that happiness, and here's the thing, happiness is also not some pill you can take. It's okay to be unhappy, okay? Unhappiness is normal, right? Being sad once in a while is okay. When it becomes chronic only, we say, okay, it's causing problems with your life, day-to-day life, then you need help. But otherwise, everybody has bad days, okay? Everybody has bad days. You don't have to be happy all the time. Please forget about that. So just remind yourself, ask yourself this question. I do this still, right? Because I'm still learning about me, right? We all are, right? We're all a work in progress. Ask yourself, okay, who am I today? What can I learn about myself? And see, the beauty of knowing who we are is that we can always manage ourselves there. If you, Nishitha, know that something makes you angry, for sure, if you've done the homework and you figure out, this really makes me mad, isn't it possible for you to create an environment where you either avoid that situation or you deal with the situation, correct? It will affect your behavior, right?
Yeah,
so
true.
You need to be self-aware. If you are not aware that you're prejudiced or upset about something, then it's problematic. So do your self-work, self-awareness, listen to yourself. Really get to know her or him, because it's very important. That's the greatest person you will ever know. And that person, if you listen to her, or if you listen to him, or if you listen to they, or whatever it is you want to be called these days, right? You can definitely be rest assured that you will go on to live your life and you will affect other people in a positive way. I promise you that. Nobody who is secure about themselves, at least 70% of the time, causes difficulty for others. We have a saying, hurt people, right? Hurt people, hurt others, right? Somehow, even if you have nothing to really be hurt about, if you hate your life, you are going to hurt someone else. You're insecure, you want power, you want to. So be careful, get to know who you are. And that's all that really, really matters. First, put the oxygen mask on yourself, as they say on the plane, right? And then help out your neighbor. That's it.
Thank you for inviting me to your TED Talk. That was brilliant. That was so beautiful. Just to add to that, it's amazing because like when you're speaking through your perspective, because my passion is just, again, I feel like I'm kind of on repeat telecast over here, but I have learned and found so many insights through the Buddhist teachings, right? So through your perspective, when you're talking about these things through your experience, through your perspective, I'm seeing so many of those similarities coming through you. Now you're mentioning, so when you mention death, I have contemplated on death so much. Then message why does the word death make me feel weak? So for me, right, that's very interesting. I feel like whoever sent that question should contemplate on death, because for me, my brother passed away in 2018. That was my very first. Ita Kaling, my mother's twin sister, passed away in my arm. So that was my very first experience of seeing someone take their last breath. And then he passed away when he was 19. And then after that, within 1 year, I know this sounds funny because I'm mentioning animals, but within 1 year, all my pets died. My dog, my 2 cats, within a very short span of time. So I was like, what the heck is going on? Why am I faced with this this energy of death so much? During that time period, I couldn't really understand it. Like, why is it happening? Because usually my mindset is that whenever something negative or whenever obstacle turns up, I'm like, this is an opportunity for me to learn and really like understand who I am, right? So, but my death, I'm like, why though? Like, what is this? And then that made me really go into the idea of death. And then I realized, no matter how much money you have in the bank, no matter how much recognition you have, even if you become a global phenomenon, even if you become the celebrity, even if you're super successful in material ways, even if you found the perfect partner, in the moment of death, you have to face it alone. So if you have to face that moment of death, what is my question. Has your life been successful? Because for me, my main target was to be able to face death nirbhayava. And Johan used to get almost triggered because he's like, you're morbid, you talk about death so much, because I wanted to understand, right? Because a lot of us don't talk about it because we want to live as if we are here to live forever. You're shocked. Your whole life falls apart. Why? Because we don't contemplate it, man. But just because we don't contemplate it doesn't mean that people don't die. People die every day. People die all around us. But still, we want to put it in the backseat and pretend as if it doesn't happen. So for me, contemplation on death really helped, and observing the mind really helped for one thing. And what Shanelle said about getting to know yourself, how do you do that? By observing, no? By observing. Like for me, I observed my patterns. I started really watching my emotions instead of jumping into a party with the emotion, hari mata tarah gaya, mata mood pullakin gahanna ඕනේ කියලා මම පිස්සෙක් වගේ නටන්න නැතුව for once I would hold back the responses and start watching as to why I respond in certain ways. ඕක දිහා කාලයක් තිස්සේ බලන් ඉති, you will start noticing patterns. You will start noticing what type of situations trigger you more. What type of negative emotion do you hold on to the most? For me, it was aggression and anger. For someone else, it would be like doubt. It would be like self-esteem issues. It would be like sadness. For some people, lobakam. You know what I mean? Unique. You see what I mean? So for me, aggression was my thing. I used to be really mad, angry with my mom because we used to have a very toxic relationship. Now we have a phenomenal relationship, not because she has changed, because I have processed the trauma and the shit, right? And Hari, Ammigen childhood decaying Matuna Adupad Dipa, we had issues. She had a lot of unprocessed trauma herself because her parents, her dad died really young. She was one of the 6, and the mom had to take care of the children, and she was given away to her grandmother. The grandmother was abusive. So a childhood abandonment trauma internalized karagata. And she went into the marriage thinking that, oh, my man is also going to abandon me. My dad did abandon her, right? And then all of that energy turned into who? Turned towards me, right? I used to get my ass whooped like no tomorrow. It was like normal. It was day to day. So I had so much of rage inside me. Growing up, when I got into fitness and training, I realized, holy shit, I have a lot of aggression. Although I'm a woman, people wouldn't approach me because I look like this angry person. Mage predominant quality ka tama dvesha, aggression. Mama මොකද කරේ අන්න හරි මේකෙන් මට තරහ යනවා මයා මාව තරහ ගැස්සුවා. Every single time that happened, I'm like, let's process this shit. Why am I mad? What is the underlying pattern that keeps popping up? For some women, for the girls, even the men listening in, even the guys listening in, ඔගොල්ලෝ සමහර වෙලාවට ඔගොල්ලෝගේ past එක දිහා බැලුවොත්, the boyfriends you've had, different faces, same person, same patterns. සමහර කටට ඉන්නවා emotionally unavailable pattern. සමහර කටට ඉන්නවා cheating. ඔය වගේ patterns මතුවෙනවා. ඇයි එකම පුද්ගල වෙන වෙන අයක through එන්නේ? ඔය අරක ඔයා process කරලා ඔයා ඒක understand කරලා release කරලා නැහැ. So ඔයාගේ karmic energy through ඔයාගේ universe එක through ඔයාට එකම lesson එක එවනවා. ඔයා තේරුම් ගන්න එකම match එක ගහනවා. Same shit keeps happening over and over again for you. So what do? You go into it. Wear your surgical gloves, your spiritual surgical gloves. Go into it and observe yourself. That's how you get to know who you are. In the face of adversity, how do you respond? In the face of adversity, how are you maneuvering through this? Because life is not going to be all like roses and like fairy tales. Life is going to bring you really uncomfortable situations. So mama karana eka practice එක I sometimes put myself in meditative states and I ask myself, mangawa tiyena හැම රුපියලම, the money in the bank, the property I own, the relationship, me ඔක්කොම නැති වෙලා ගියොත් how would I respond? How would I face it? So I put myself in the simulator situations and I see how my mind responds to these things. Triggers will face Hari, workplace person is harassing you, or your husband or your partner or your boyfriend or your girlfriend is saying something that really is triggering you. You're pissing me off. Why are you doing this? Why am I responding this way? This is the best way to get to know each other. Buddhism වලකට විදර්ශනා කියනවා. අපි නිකන් කියමු observation කියලා. Same thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Miss Gaia, for that wonderful answer. And sadly, we have come to the end of today's session. I mean, it was such a wonderful, wonderful session that, I mean, personally, this is like the best experience that I had in my entire life. That is my personal opinion. And endings are not always bad things. I mean, they just mean that that something else is about to begin. So I think from today onwards, the people who have joined with us here today got an idea on how to deal with problems that you're facing, how to keep your mental health and your physical well-being in touch. So I would like to thank Miss Gaia Kodithuwakku and Miss Shanelle De Almeida for sharing your valuable time with us to talk about these kind of things and to talk about timely topics like this. And I would also like to thank the community services avenue of the Rotaract Club of NSBM for coming up with this amazing. To thank everyone who have joined here with us. And there are 2 more episodes coming on. I warmly invite you to join those. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to say something to you as well. I mean, first of all, such an honor to be any panel with Gaia. Second of all, I think you're a very talented interviewer. So keep it up, right? Don't you agree? Like, I think he's really good at this. So cheers to you. Well done, sir. And I think you and the younger generation, you all have an obligation to make Sri Lanka better. So please help in changing and making our country better, right?
I think it also comes through, like even when Nishitha speaks, I think it comes through the openness.
Absolutely.
අපි මොලේ already පුරෝගන දෙයක් අහද්දී අපිට එකකින් receive කරන්න බෑ. You know, when I started learning Buddhism, when I started learning, I'm like, holy shit, I don't know anything. I went into it with that humbleness, and that's the humbleness we all need in order for us to grow and evolve. Yeah, and so well done, Nishitha. Really appreciate your presence here.
100%. 100%.
Thank you.
So it's up to you all, the younger people, to help take this country to the next level. And just remember, open-mindedness is the key. So please perpetuate that and make it part of our culture. Thank you very much. It's been an honor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your wonderful thoughts, and literally like tearing up from those amazing words. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining here with us, and thank you guys. Thank you for everyone who has joined here with us. There are two more episodes coming on. I just warmly invite you all to join with us then too. So thank you very much, guys. Stay safe and stay blessed. And I wish you all a good night. Thank you very much, Miss Gaia and Miss Shanelle.
Thank you.